Today I'm going to do the video on one of the questions that if the story of Buddhism coming to China is fundamentally true and Bodhidharma came and ended up at the Shaolin temple and wanted to teach them Buddhism but had to strengthen their bodies and their minds, in order to do so, because the problem was that they were doing aesthetic practices. And aesthetic practices generally involve things like fasting and really, really suffering and starving, right? Not a middle path thing at all, not Buddhist. So the story goes, he created 3 exercises and then was basically wanting to find, a way to pass them on once he was ready. As I recall, somebody, I can't remember the student's name. Anyway, yeah, I can't remember his name. One of the monks, actually, they say, in order to try to get Bodhidharma's attention, like chopped off his arm and was like, this is how much I want to understand, the Dharma. I want to know what it is you know. So apparently, legend goes, there's these 3 exercises created. So the 3 exercises are the Shaolin 18 Lohan Palm, which is likely either the one I know or one similar to it, right? There's lots of variants of this Qigong kind of exercise. But it would definitely be a Lohan Palm that's not a fighting system. If you look on YouTube and stuff, you'll see Shaolin Lohan and it'll be like fisticuffs. But there's other ones that look like stretching. They stretch backwards and stretch open and all these other kinds of things. That's much more likely to be closer to the original, or like what we're doing is more likely to be closer to the original. Nobody knows, right? So what's the purpose of it? Is it martial purposefully? Well, it's purposefully meant to be a practice in order to integrate your mind into your body. We sort of have an idea that we're piloting our bodies. Like we kind of have this idea that usually we're riding in our brain back here somewhere, our awareness, or maybe in our heart, depending on how we're feeling, and that we're sort of in control of this. And that's called mind-body duality or mind-body dualism. And mind-body dualism is a state that we all sort of naturally attain. Just being in the world, just living our lives. That's kind of how we all think. So the idea behind the form we're doing, the Shaolin 18 Lohan Palm, is to bring mind and body together. It's to remove the duality of it. So no longer are you thinking of yourself as a entity, ghosty thing that pilots a meat suit. Instead, you start to think more like, I am just as much my hand as I am my brain. That's the idea. And a really good example of this, actually, is phantom limb pain. When somebody does lose a limb, somebody has their finger cut off, they'll feel that finger. They'll feel pain where the finger would be that's completely gone, because their nervous system and their psyche is still registering it. So we have to really study how we think about our own bodies. And if we do that properly through movement, and really detailed movement sometimes, like what we're talking about, where I move my chest first and that's going to come down my arm and all of this will follow, or what we talked about where the eyes will turn and the body will come behind it. These kinds of things will change how integrated into your body you are. Okay? That's kind of the first point. What is Shaolin 18 Lohan Palm for? It's to integrate mind into body and to help you towards what's called non-duality, which is a whole other subject, but this is the first stepping stone we're talking about. So it's the middle path, if you were to take the Buddhist look at this. It's not too yin and it's not too yang. It doesn't move too fast. It's not too muscular and things like that. It's yang. And it's not, sitting on the ground quietly and thinking about things, which is very yin. This is a slow moving, deep breathing, intentional with the mind type of exercise. This is about integration of yin and yang together. So if you practice this form for a really long time, it will actually unravel to you if you keep studying, why would I move this way? What does this feel? But the instruction that I was given and the instruction I'm giving now is about getting the idea of what it is you're supposed to be looking for and what it is that you're supposed to be accomplishing. So the other 2 exercises are called the muscle tendon change and the bone marrow washing method. Okay. The muscle tendon change is very young and it builds strength. It actually uses your muscle in order to do dynamic tension exercises to micro tear your tendons and fascia and connective tissue so that overnight, because these tears are tiny, overnight the body will start to repair them. And if you do this over and over and over for many days, the tendons and the fascia and connective tissue in your body will actually thicken. Okay. Actually, when I had my knee surgery, that was one of the remarks that the surgeon had to say was that my tendons were much thicker than normal in my knee, which he thought was kind of interesting and asked me about it. But so the I Ching Jing builds the body. The I Ching Jing with its yang, it moves, it's fiery, it builds the body for you. So if somebody doesn't have enough physicality, right? They don't have enough body. So how do you integrate a mind into a body that you don't really sort of have? That's where you exercise. If it's the other way around, if you're a young and fiery person and you like fighting and you were too young when you learned all this stuff, then you might get taken to the bone marrow washing method eventually. That one is very, very yin. It's a qigong where you're standing, you're moving in very, very slow motion, and it's dealing all with sensations at a very subtle level in the nervous system. Okay? So we've got a very yang exercise and a very yin exercise. Shaolin 18 Lohan Palm is the center of the two. So that's why I'm teaching it first, because if you work on this, this will always continually balance your body and your training. And then if there's something in particular like that diagnostically needs to be worked on, you need to become stronger, say. Maybe you're a little bit older. The I Ching Jing, the muscle tendon change, would be really good for you because it's your own body strengthening against itself. It's not like lifting weights or anything like that. All you do is tighten your muscles and move your body in different directions. Anybody can do it. And the results are really phenomenal. If you're finding that you're the kind of person that's, it's a little too energetic, the bone marrow washing method, right, will probably be very attractive to you. But since I'm not teaching either of those right now, what I'm going to teach you about is how Lohan does sit in the middle, now that we've got all that sorted. So if you feel like you're more of a yang person, you're more fiery, you're more out there, you're outgoing, you speak more loudly perhaps, these kinds of things, these are yang traits, red faces, stuff like that, then you might want to look at Lohan as a time to exercise patience and slowness and relaxation in the life. Okay, the Lohan form actually, even up to now, I haven't performed it on video yet at like correct speed because it's really slow. If you've seen Tai Chi, it's generally slower than Tai Chi is performed because there's a breathing ratio that will end up setting your rhythm for you. Okay, we just haven't quite got there in our lessons yet. But it's very, very, very slow. So when you're practicing your Lohan, that's one way to counterbalance too much yang, is to slow yourself down. If you're feeling like you're too yin, you've been on the couch for 2 years because it's been COVID, and there's nothing but junk food and condiments in your fridge, just like mine, then maybe you want to do a little bit more. So then when you're doing your 18 Lohan, you might want to practice it multiple times in a day or have a longer session of practice. Even if you only know 3 or 4 moves, if you did them for 20 minutes, you're going to build up a sweat. You also might want to look at, in the last movement we did the rising palm and we squatted down into the horse stance, right, with the legs spread out. That is one of the basic stances of martial arts, along with the hanging stance we did earlier. You could start practicing stance training for longer periods of time. When I was with Shifu Chen, everything revolves around the breath. We'll get there very soon in these lessons. So what he would say was if, you were going to do a horse stance, right, you get to here, boom, and you would decide how many breaths you're going to work on. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do horse stance for 3 entire breath cycles, in and out. And you'll start to notice that if you push yourself, right when you don't want to stand there anymore, just a half a breath cycle. And you do that daily. The next thing you know, you'll be standing in it really low and your legs will be getting stronger. And of course, if your thighs get stronger, your blood pressure will be better, right? Everything's going to flow more easily in the body. There's going to be less stagnant fluid in the body. Things like edema will probably start to go away. It's really, really powerful stuff. But it's because of the way we live our lives and that we don't integrate into our bodies and our movements with our minds that we tend to have health problems, right? The health problems of today are all easy to recognize with any bit of Chinese medical knowledge. You can just quite simply see that, we all have phones now. You can see it in everybody's posture. You can see the people who are having a very bad day because their faces are red. It's very simple observational stuff. And Lohan Palm is built like that. So when you're doing it, a good example of how to practice, one more quick bit of advice, is if you can do it in front of a mirror, please do. And when you do your bow, right, so you do this part, when you come up to here, close your eyes. And then when you bring your hands down, as they get towards your nose, open your eyes and see where you are. Because this was the first one Sifu Chen taught me. If your eyes are closed, some people will actually come all the way, like out, even on the outsides of their heads. I've never seen that one, but I've seen right by the ear. And then they'll open their eyes and they'll be shocked that they thought that was the center of their body. And quite literally, it just means they're out of balance. In what way? Doesn't matter. Balance is balance. So if you train this until it starts to be balanced between left and right, whatever it was that pulled it, could have been a shoulder injury, could have been a hip injury, it could have been anything. It will start to resolve itself. That starts to be how this healing system works. And the more intentionally and detailed you understand this system, the more you can extract from it. Okay, and I know I kind of got off on the martial arts part. Sorry. Maybe I'll make another video. Was it originally intended as a martial art? No, I don't think so. But because there were these 3 exercises, the Yi Jin Jing, the muscle tendon change, the Shaolin 18 Lohan Palm, the bone marrow washing, okay? If you did all 3 of those exercises, and it took me 25 years to get all 3 of those exercises, by the way. I looked for them since I was a kid because I heard this same legend. If you get the 3 exercises and you start doing all 3 exercises appropriately and at the right times of year and things like that, I know when I did it, I did 100 days once of all 3 of the exercises every day. And at the end of that 100 days, all I could say was I can see why the Shaolin monks never got beat. It's incredible how powerful all of that training together becomes. But in history, there's another interesting part. The Shaolin Temple, which says, Bodhidharma created martial arts and all Kung Fu comes from these 3 exercises. That's not real history, that's legendary stuff. The history is that there was already martial arts in China. So what happened was that there was martial arts and there was this Bodhidharma guy and he went to the temple. And then there was a time period where if you got yourself in trouble with the law, you were going to be executed or something like bad, right? Thrown in prison. They would give you an opportunity to shave your head and go live in a monastery for the rest of your life to avoid prison. So all of the gangsters, all the tough guys, all the martial arts guys, right, in the time, no gunpowder, get caught. They say, I'll shave my head. So everybody in that province went to Shaolin Temple. Rumor gets out. Well, if you're going to shave your head, you're going to go to Shaolin because all of these other guys that do martial arts are there. And they're all the best, and that's what you like to do. Better than hanging out in prison, right? So Shaolin becomes a mecca of martial arts. Not necessarily because Bodhidharma's exercises created those martial arts, but because I do believe Bodhidharma's exercises ended up becoming the fuel that the martial arts engines ran on, if you will. If that makes sense. So from a martial arts point of view, if you train martial arts first, and then you look at this form, you're going to see all kinds of stuff in it because your martial arts lens is on. When you do lifting palm, which is one of our next movements, you're going to see a strike under the jaw. When you do forward palms, you see punches. When we do cut down 1,000 soldiers, you'll see arm bars and you'll see throws and all sorts of stuff if you're a martial artist. And that's always correct because it's about your perception of these things. Okay, it's about your perception of these things. The purpose of these exercises is to make you more integrated into your body so that you can better understand reality. It also happens to make your body very strong and very powerful, which is very helpful for martial arts. That would be the best way I could put this. Lohan does have, at the very end here, I'll shut up then. Lohan does have, however, when I was training with Sifu Chen, a martial element. Okay, and the martial element, the way he taught me was he said, can you show me applications of everything? So I just did because I've been doing martial arts for a long time. And he would always say, yes, those are good, that's good, but be more Buddhist. Be more Buddhist. And the message he got across was, any martial arts applications you see in here are correct, but they have to be done in the most compassionate way possible. You have to cause the least amount of damage. So that's a real challenge. It takes a very high-level martial artist to be attacked and still be able to control the situation without having to hurt anybody, right? So that's the ideal in Lohan Palm. That's the ideal. And once you've got the entire style, the very end of it, there's a, how would you put it? A cross reference, a cross discipline exercise. That's a better way to put it. A cross discipline exercise, both meditative and martially, that actually does, it is in the martial side actually built to affect an opponent. It's about affecting the space in which the opponent stands. It's called crushing space. And instead of, hitting things, conk, what you're actually doing is you're taking a space around somebody by hitting in two directions at once, and you shrink the space on them in such a way that they just can't stand there anymore, right? And their body, if they resist, they kind of bounce themselves out. It's really cool. And it's very Buddhist, because when it's done right, you basically there's no injury. You'll just fly off and you'll land and you'll be like, that wasn't cool. And then you come back at Sifu and he'll just make you fly away again. That wasn't cool. But you're not getting injured. Most Buddhist way possible, right? So it is a martial artist if you're a martial artist already and you're looking at it from that perspective. It wasn't built as one. I'm very positive it wasn't built as one. I could go more into the history, but I mean, this is already a 20-minute video. So maybe I'll make another one for you guys. Hopefully that answers your questions and wasn't too boring and too rambling. Talk to you soon.